All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of YouTube. This is Pastor Dowell. On my broadcast last week, I started doing a teaching on the importance of marriage, but how not to actually get a marriage license through the state. And if you do, of course, I'll give you the pros and the cons, the choices that you end up making and stuff, and the liabilities you're going to incur over a lifetime is maybe something you may not want to consider. Now, I realize that we live in a world and society that people just go along to get along, and they do what everybody else does. And anytime you stop doing what everybody else does and stop living the way everybody else do, everybody that's in the matrix, if I can use that term and be pure, think that you're insane or you're crazy. For instance, I believe that you should try to do everything you can to live debt-free. Now, that's insanity in a world of credit. You understand what I mean? And people will vehemently oppose me for preaching and teaching like this. I also realize that the churches, the ministers, or whoever it is, and especially 501c3 people, they never, ever, ever preach against one of the greatest contracts that the state, and I'm going to say capital state, uses to impose levies, fines, decrees, laws against you, which if you did not participate in it, you'll be a whole lot more freer. Now, of course, there's some benefits you're going to miss, because anytime the government gives you anything, they'll give you some benefits and give you some handouts. And of course, you have to be the one to determine if they're for you. What I'm going to do, I'm going to spend some time here just for a second this morning, and I'm going to show you the type of scenario and the type of psychological abuse that takes place that wives use against husbands to unfairly and dishonestly gain a legal advantage against them. That's what I'm going to do here this morning, okay? Now, I mostly talk about stuff like this, and I will be talking even in greater extent about things like this to give you information on my Patreon account, because on YouTube, there are trolls, there are people who are spurned, there are ignorant people. I don't too much concern with them. If you notice that for the most part, I ignore them. Because they're going to be there. You're going to have your illiterate people. You're going to have your stupid people. You're going to have your dumb, dormant, docile, demoralized, and demonized people. You're not going to put an end to that in sickness or that insanity. Most people just simply will not do what it takes to use self-autonomy and be informed about personal decisions and choices they're going to make in their life. And of course, you have people with their own theology, their own ideology, on their doctrines and everything and stuff. But you got to be very careful of what you listen to, who you listen to, because people have an agenda in life, but they're not going to expose to you and tell you what that agenda is. And because one thing about these agendas, all these people have agendas, but very few people have solutions. What we need today is solutions for what we're dealing with in this world. So anyway, let's go on with it. Let me read you a few things here, okay? And let's lay this thing out. I want you to listen very closely, okay? Check this out. For most domestic violence cases, the courts and the states are so disinterested and overworked that they refuse to even bother to verify or authenticate the allegations made, and aren't interested in evidence that would refute the allegations. This approach results in unlawful violence against men that consist of character defamation, slander, verbal violence, and incarceration, coerced through fraud, and with the blessings and involvement of an increasingly corrupt state family law apparatus. Now, mind you, I understand that in this world right here that there are also a lot of sorry men that abuse good women. Believe me, I am not ignorant of that fact. I'm under no illusion whatsoever at all. This particular subject and topic right now is how women today are using and abusing men. And that's the reason why a lot of men are opting out of doing this thing, because there's something going on with the mental psyche of a lot of women today. And if you get on YouTube, you'll see a lot of women that will confirm that and will tell you that. What I'm trying to do is give you information going forward in life so you don't make the same mistakes again, because your churches, your preachers, your pastors, your ministers, the court system, the state, all of them not going to tell you this. They want you saddled up with the beast. All right, well, let's go on here, all right? All right, what's that? Female violence is just as bad, if not worse, because they wrongfully misuse the state and law enforcement as their agent instead of instituting violence themselves. Well, I just had not too long ago, found out that a wife and a daughter was beating the hell out of her husband, and after they beat him, they ran down to the police station and put a restraining order on him. Anyway, such verbal and physical violence and lies by women against men are just as wrong as the violence. Men are often accused of both types of violence should be punished by the state. Both types of perpetrators should be locked up and punished criminally. If either one is. If only one of the two offenders is punished, then the result is discrimination against men. In most cases, the state only punishes the alleged physical violence of the man, but the verbal and psychological violence of the woman is just as destructive and takes even longer to heal than the physical violence. That is true. The only way to level the playing field is to make, look at this, mandate polygraph tests for the allegations of domestic violence and to incarcerate those who make false allegations. You know, I'm coming up with a video here because you remember how I talked about there are women that are literally destroying men's professional careers by lying and saying that they were sexually abused, they were sexually molested, or they were raped when they go to these parties and stuff they shouldn't go to. And they lie on these men, and the system immediately jumps in both feet to make sure that they strip these men of all manhood and throw them in jail and everything, only come to find out that this woman lied. I'm going to talk about that pretty soon here, okay? And not only that, not only did she lie, but the court systems reversed all the decisions and threw this woman in jail for a whole year for lying. She had a 3-year sentence reduced to 1 year. 1 year for lying and ruining the lives of two men. All right. What was that? States will seldom do this on the excuse that the polygraph testing isn't 100% accurate, but even the lying, and just because somebody brings in false allegation or an accusation, or just decide that they're going to accuse someone simply because they're bitter and angry, you don't have 100% accuracy in that either, but yet and still you follow up with it too, though, don't you? But it isn't over 98% accurate, and a much larger percent than 2% of allegations made by women are false. This type of reform is long overdue. So, now what we're going to do is we're going to go over the scenario of the psychological abuse that wives employ and what they do and what they use against husbands unfairly and dishonestly to gain legal advantage, okay? Number one, the wife finds something that gets the husband mad. Number two, she buys a tape recorder. Boy, ain't this happening in somebody's life that I know of. Only come to backfire on her to show her character that she couldn't hide. Number three, the wife invites friends over to visit and has children in attendance to witness the event. Number four, the wife provokes husband to anger on a routine basis and then refuses to discuss or reason with him to solve the problem that is behind the anger. Number five, this leads man to get increasingly frustrated and perhaps to touch but not hit the wife. Number six, as soon as the husband touches the wife without her blessing, wife calls the police. She files charges against her husband and a police report and has him arrested for domestic violence. Boy, isn't that the truth? She has the kids and her friends. I like saying children, but you know the article says kids. Kids is a goat. Children are human beings, or anyway. She has the kids and her friends testify, meaning they lie, against the man or exaggerate the claims in order to advantage herself financially. Number seven, the husband gets thrown out of his own house and in jail for up to 3 days. Number eight, meanwhile, the wife files a domestic restraining order and has her husband served in jail. She asked the courts to include her children on the order so that the father is alienated from his children, and to later give her the advantage in the custody settlement that will be part of the divorce. This guarantees the husband won't get to see his children any more often than every other weekend, which is discriminatory of men and unfair. Number 9, the husband has an immediate temporary restraining order signed, issued against him by the family court, and he has to appear in court no later than about 10 days after he is served. 10, shortly after the husband is released from jail, he has to find a lawyer and then appear in court to answer false allegations of domestic violence in front of a family court judge. It doesn't matter how much evidence or testimony he has. The judge simply won't allow witnesses or evidence to be presented, and the whole turn of events into a he says, she says ridiculous shouting match, not to mention a kangaroo court, quote unquote kangaroo court. The wife tries to push the husband buttons so he looks angry and dogmatic. That way, the judge will throw the book at him. Women are experts at pushing people's buttons. Yes, they are. That is what makes them such good parents. Anyway, all right. But you see the setup that's going on here, right? Number 11, check this out. This is very important. The judge orders a permanent restraining order in which the husband is excluded from his own house that he is buying and paying for up to 3 years. Judges will suddenly deny requests to renew the order beyond that without probable cause. Now, what's going on here is legalized extortion, prostitution, which I'll get to a little bit later, which you're getting ready to see. And that's why I ask over and over again. I ask the questions. I like asking questions in order to get people to start using critical thinking skills. You need to start thinking about this stuff. All right? Because all this is a setup. All right? Because when you enter into a marriage contract, you enter into a third-party general limited partnership, where with the state, capital S-T-A-T-E, the state is actually the husband, and you and your spouse is actually the wife in this. And I'm telling you, it gets even more crazy. Let's go on here for a second. Number 12. Now the vindictive wife has exclusive use to the family home, and her husband has to find another expensive place to live. This doubles his expenses and downgrades the lifestyle of all parties in the family. And women don't care. They don't care one bit unless their, husband is rich. And if a woman, I'm telling you right now, if a woman is seeking to try to manipulate, dominate, control the husband after many years of marriage and after family, and they realize how much money that the man has amassed, she has a sugar daddy or somebody else on the side taking care of her. I promise you that. Because adultery is not a punishable fine by jail sentence or death in America. Isn't that amazing? 13. The wife then files a request for dissolution, and in order to show cause for spousal support, child support, and exclusive use of the family home. Number 14. Since most courts favor women, then they are awarded her all this support. All right? Then they all award her this support. Since the wife made the false allegations, the court will award her more than 50% timeshare she deserves, which increases the support and also the alienation of the father from his children. The child support can be as high as 50% of the income before tax for 2 children or more. The ex-husband is then compelled to pay alimony for half of the length of the marriage, and in California, in most cases, California, man, must pay child support until the child reaches the age of 18. This leaves the father financially destitute, discouraged, and with barely enough to live on after he pays his taxes. I tell you what, I'm telling you right now, I know how to skip town and go find me a tribe in the backwoods jungles of Africa or Timbuktu or Ethiopia or somewhere before I myself personally, I've always told my wife this from the very beginning, submit to some crap like this. I don't care if I did make a contract with them. I don't have to stay here in this country. I will find me a way out of here, and I will get free of this system and get free of a woman that would follow the tyranny of this. That's just me personally. That's me personally. All right. Number 15, dissolution occurs and the woman is then usually awarded by the court half of everything that the man owns, including what he owned before the marriage. This amounts to theft in violation of Exodus 20:15. But then the man is just a John anyway. That's what he's looking. He's just a John anyway. That's all that the state's marriage license made every man into. That's all that the state marriage license every man made into. A willing financial host for women prostitutes who have used the force of law to guarantee that the sex they provide during the marriage is rewarded with money after the divorce. That's where my prostitution idea came in from. Check it out. 16, the wife then refuses to work to support herself in order to maximize her spousal and child support, and what little income she does make she hides so that the courts won't lower her support. In doing so, she has turned marriage into a welfare institution and her ex-husband unto an unwitting victim and financial slave. And in no time did her husband ever knowingly sign a contract that gave away his rights to his property. But the state courts see it differently, because if they don't, then the state has to pick up the welfare tab, which they're not going to do. And they don't want to pay the bill for the people's problem, even though that they are the authority in this polygamous relationship. See, the state, the husband, and the wife, and then the children belong to the authority, which is the state. So the state looks at it as it is, it's better for me to saddle a man with all this distress and all this financial responsibility rather than them getting on the welfare system and having the state take care of them. 17, the massive support payments and lack of involvement of divorced fathers with their children mandated by the courts then leads the man to feel isolated, bitter, abused, and financially enslaved. Sometimes men just commit suicide and get the hell out of it, which I don't recommend, but they do it. He feels cheated, injured, because you think about it. If a man says, man, damn, my life's over with. Well, hell, I'm checking up out there. Men, they kill themselves. And guess what? Now they say, now go get your damn financial support. Now go get all this stuff, which they do. What does the wife do? Go get to the state then, don't they? But see, then after that, you got eternity and you messed out on your life. So, anyway, that's why you need a strong support system. He feels cheated, injured, and abused by the state and is given no recourse to remedy his injury in the biased court system. He either turns anti-government and goes on a litigation rampage, as so many divorced fathers do, and he then turns to hedonism, alcohol, drugs, and promiscuous sex to drown his sorrows. All of his relationships turn very superficial because his ex-wife has taught him by her actions that there is no value to making a commitment or getting a marriage license. There is no value to making a commitment and getting a marriage license. There's a value to marriage, but there's no value for, especially for the man, for a marriage license. And let me tell you something. If you're a woman that makes more money than your man and your man goes files for divorce, then guess what? There ain't no value for you either. You getting ready to feel it. It only gives women the upper hand to invite male abuse. He therefore refuses from the point to get married or to have children and gets his milk for free without having to buy the cow. This behavior, and this is number 18, this behavior on part of the ex-husband sets a bad role model for the children, and they follow it. This spreads communicable diseases and provides an unstable and unhealthy environment for the children to grow up in. Yeah, because the women don't understand that while they're thinking that they are in control here, they are damaging these children, which is going to end up like a lot of these children today that don't have father figures in the house. They're either going to end up with alternative lifestyles. They're going to end up with debauchery or promiscuity. And some of them are going to end up dead before they even get 30 because there's no guidance from a man that would have taken care of responsibilities. But you got this demonically inspired woman that's done made sure that she castrated him, and she thinks she's got the victory, not knowing that life getting ready to be turned upside down. That's how much she loves the children. This spreads communicable diseases and provides an unstable and unhealthy environment for the children to grow up in. This causes more depravity of future generations. It also causes children to have increased anxiety about the longevity of marriage and lowers the value of marriage and commitment in their eyes as well. Number 19. So, the sad part about it is that the children are so naive and so gullible and so ignorant that they will not realize until many, many years out there, adults, 20, 25, 30 years old, what actually the mother did to the father. They won't realize until then. And too many times, more often than not, I've seen it once, I've seen it 1,000 times. The women are lying to children about their father. They get old, and then they end up finding their fathers, having to sit down and talking with their fathers. And instead of being bitter against the fathers like they were because they were lied to, they were gamed, they were used, they were abused, the father gives his side of the story, the children start putting 2 and 2 together, and then the next thing you know, they don't want no relationship with their mother for the rest of their life. Man. I'll go at 19 again, okay? Subsequently, there's an increase in divorce rates among future generations because they expect their lives to be just as insecure, tumultuous, and unfulfilling as that of their warring parents. There are also highly elevated instances of gender identity conflict in single-parent families leading to homosexuality. I just got finished saying that. Poor role models leads to teen pregnancies, and standards of living and educational levels decline. We also see increased levels of self-mutilation, sexual perversion, and tendency among children and single parents, usually because there is less parent involvement with fewer parents. Number 20, children, and especially young men, who aren't able to have contact with their fathers because of unfair custody arrangements rammed down the throat of disgruntled fathers, leads them to grow up angry and to not have their identity ever validated. 21. General societal and moral decay, and the gradual and ultimate result. Things grow worse with every succeeding generation. A just system would not permit this result, but since we don't have a just system, we have a corrupt system that is a product of socialist thinking and an idolatrous beast government system. Now think about this for a second. Based on the scenario above, the only thing that domestic abuse laws coupled with the state marriage license do is encourage financial and psychological abuse of men and women, or psychological abuse of men by women. And on the other hand, if a woman could gain nothing financially because there were no marriage license, they would not be awarded spousal support or child support because of divorce, but must instead work to support themselves with custody divided equally among the spouses. Then the legal and financial incentives for abusing men would disappear with them. The abuses will go away, and I believe that the prenuptial agreement found, okay, and then it gives a section that will solve all this problems in this wicked world that we live in. And that's why I tell you, you should actually drop your own contract. The Constitution says you can actually make your own treaties, make your own contracts. The state's marriage license is a domestic violence law. The state marriage license and domestic violence laws, however, encourage this problem. They do, because it's a cash cow system. Our agreement forces polygraph tests whenever domestic violence accusations are made and admits them into evidence. It also eliminates spousal and child support to force everyone to support themselves, thus eliminating the use of marriage and welfare institution, which Yah never intended to be, which is a moral and just system. But see, we live in a wicked world where people are hiding behind religion, and then trying to get the whole world thinking that they are these just people and stuff, when really they're nothing but tyrants. So this is how women abuse domestic violence laws to abuse and enslave men. You want to know more about this, you may want to consider checking out my information down below and really becoming a patron, because I'm really going in hook, line, and sinker to do everything I can to inform both men and women of what's really truly going on right in front of you. Right in front of you, without you even without your knowledge, so that you don't be a victim of this tyrannical kangaroo court injustice system. Hope I said something to stimulate thought. You have a wonderful day.